So in today's class, yeah, we'll be discussing about this temperature effects on the behavior of materials. So what we did was in last class we analyzed some statically indeterminate structures. So we learned how to apply equilibrium equations, force displacement relations, and also displacement compatibility equations. So we analyzed a prismatic bar which is fixed between at both ends, and an intermediate load was acting.
Sir,
Sir, you are
you're
mute,
mute.
sir.
You're muted, sir.
Now it is, you are able to hear, right? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, fine. Yeah, so yeah, I was telling about some last class where we discussed some, we did some analysis of indeterminate structures. So first was a prismatic bar which was fixed at both ends, and intermediate load was acting at the center, and we found the reactions. And we used another technique called, which involved splitting the problem into two parts. One was a statically into two statically determinate problems. So first thing what we did was we allowed the bar to expand under the action of the point load P, and then we applied a compressive force so that the bar will come back to its original position. So we use that technique also, and the technique that is called also known as the principle of superposition. So we will use that in today's class. Again we studied a composite column which was subjected to axial load, and we found the stresses in the copper tube and the steel cylinder. Then we analyzed a truss problem. It is composed of three members which were concurrent, and a point load is acting at that point of concurrency. And we again applied we found the six unknowns, the member forces and the member elongations, using equilibrium equations, force displacement relations, and the compatibility condition. So the compatibility condition involved working with the geometry of the deformed section and the working with the undeformed section and the deformed section. Yeah, so in today's class, usually I make PPT slides, but I didn't have time to do them, so I wrote on a piece of paper, and then I'll be explaining in today's class. So we will discuss about how change in temperature affect the behavior of materials. So in real life, the materials used in structures are subjected to variations in temperature. So for example, you are on an aircraft and you are traveling. So at the ground level, the temperature is like 30 degrees centigrade, like that. So after the aircraft takes off, so we will see that with the increase in altitude, the temperature increases. So in the troposphere, the rate of increase of temperature is 6.5 degrees centigrade per kilometer. So, and then once you reach the higher altitudes and reach the stratosphere, then what happens is the temperature starts to drop. So the components of the aircraft are subjected to these temperature changes. So you have studied in your earlier classes that temperatures changes produce elongations or contractions in the structural components. So usually when you increase the temperature, the body will expand, and if the body is allowed to expand, there will be no stresses produced. However, if the body is not allowed to expand, then there will be some internal stresses produced. So this affects the mechanical behavior. So once the stresses come into picture, the mechanical behavior will be affected. So the designers of the aircraft components need to consider these changes in temperature, and then so we need to understand these basics of this temperature changes and how it affects the material behavior. So I'll introduce two terminologies here. One is what is meant by thermal strain, and the other one is what is meant by thermal stress. So first here you see a bar of a prismatic bar of length L, and it is at a temperature T1 degree centigrade. And what happens is uh, you increase the temperature of the bar to T plus delta T degree centigrade. So the rise in temperature is delta T. Okay, so because of this rise in temperature, the bar will expand. So we see that the expansion of the bar is given as L plus is given as alpha delta T L. So the expansion is directly proportional to the increase in temperature, and also it is proportional to the initial length. So here the change in length delta L is alpha delta T L. So this relation is also called as the temperature displacement relation. So here we have the temperature, and delta L is the displacement of this point. So alpha is the coefficient of thermal expansion. Usually coefficient of thermal expansion is positive. That means as the temperature rises, the length also will increase. As the temperature drops, the length will reduce. So we define now the concept called strain for this problem. So the strain here will be elongation per unit length. So the length is elongation is delta L and total length is L. So we'll have the strain epsilon as delta L by L. So this since it is associated with temperature, we define this we call this strain as thermal strain. So a rise in temperature del T will produce a strain of alpha delta T. So we divide alpha delta T by L, so we'll get alpha del T. So yeah, so since alpha is positive, a positive increase in temperature will cause a positive thermal strain, and that is related with expansion, and a negative thermal and a negative change, that is a drop in temperature, will cause a contraction, and that is a negative thermal strain. So this is regarding the concept of thermal strain. The units of alpha. So what are the units of alpha? So here strain has no units, and delta T has degree Celsius or degree or Kelvin. So units of alpha will be 1 by degree centigrade or 1 by Kelvin. Okay. So you can also express in Fahrenheit, 1 by Fahrenheit also. The thing is for degree centigrade and degree Kelvin, whatever alpha you get for one value for one can be converted will be same for the other also. But for Fahrenheit, you have to make a small change in alpha value so that you can use for Fahrenheit. So we'll discuss that in a problem later. So now I'll introduce the concept of thermal stresses. So concept is very simple. So here we have a bar of length L, and it is fixed at point A. We fixed at the both ends A and B. So the initial temperature of the bar is T degree centigrade. Now what we do, we increase the temperature by delta T. So this is the heated bar, and the temperature is T plus delta T degree centigrade. So there is a rise in temperature. So there is a rise of delta T in the temperature. Because of this, the bar will want to expand. So it wants to increase its expand, but this expansion is prevented by these fixed ends. So we can intuitively see that there is a stress developed in this bar. So there is some internal stresses, and we can see that since the bar is prevented from expanding, there is a compressive force which is developed in the throughout the length of the bar. So what is the value of this compressive stress which is produced due to this increase in temperature delta T? So how to analyze this problem? So first thing we'll do, we will use the principle of superposition, which we discussed in last class. So I'll put that put that analysis in a very simple form here. So what we do is, first thing we'll do is we'll allow the bar to expand freely. So we can remove one of the support. We can remove support A or support B. So in this problem, we remove the support B. So we remove the support B, and then we apply the temperature. We raise the temperature of this bar. So as a result, the bar will expand by a small amount, and that expansion is given as delta B T. So T represents temperature, and B is the elongation at point B. So this elongation at point B can be obtained using the relation alpha delta T L. Okay, so that is the temperature displacement relationship. So this is the expansion in the bar. Now what we do is we apply a force on this bar in the leftward direction. That is, we apply a compressive force on this bar. So that what will happen is this compressive force will cause the bar to contract. So the contraction amount is given as delta RB. Okay. So because this force is acting to the leftward, to balance it, an equal and opposite force RA will act at support A. So RA will be equal to RB. Now what we need to do is we can find the contraction in this bar by using the force displacement relationship. So the compressive force is uniform throughout the length of this bar. So the contraction delta RB will be equal to RB L by EA. So one thing you can ask is that the compressive force is applied for this elongation, right? It is L plus delta BT. So if you look carefully, I'm putting L, and why we can use L instead of using L plus delta BT? The reason is RB by EA is a very small quantity, and when you multiply RB by EA into L plus RB by EA into delta BT, the second term RB by EA into delta BT can be neglected when you compare with this value. So this analysis is okay. So we can neglect the delta B term which is coming here, and we can effectively say that delta RB, which is a contraction in this bar, is RBL by EA. So now if you look carefully, the motion of point B, there is no motion of point B because it is fixed. So whatever contraction, whatever thermal expansion is happening in the bar should be counteracted by the compression produced by this compressive force. So the compatibility condition will be that the expansion delta BT will be equal to the contraction delta RB. So we apply that compatibility condition now, and we get this relation. So length of AB is constant, that is both A and point B are fixed, so AB is constant. So there is no motion of point B, and so the thermal expansion delta BT is equal to the contraction due to the applied compressive force. So the thermal expansion is obtained from the temperature displacement relation, which is alpha delta TL, and delta RB, which is the contraction due to compressive force, is obtained from from the force displacement relation, which is RBL by EA. So what we do, we send EA to the left hand side, and L will cancel out. So the axial compressive force which will produce a contraction so that there is no expansion is E alpha delta T A. So what we can do, this RB is actually a compressive force. So there is a corresponding compressive stress in the bar, which is sigma AB. Sigma AB will be RB by A. So it is E alpha delta T. So if you look carefully here, this compressive stress is an internal stress, and this is produced due to the temperature rise. And since the bar was not allowed to expand, this stress was produced. So this stress is also called as, we call it as thermal stress. And if you look for that, for this particular case, this thermal stress is independent of the length of the bar and also independent of the area of cross section of the bar. So it is doesn't depend on length on the area for this particular case. So now through this example, we have seen how thermal stress are produced in a bar when motion is when resistance are produced, when resistance are given to the structure. So now we will solve another simple example, which is composed of two bars. So there is it is composed of two prismatic segments. So there is segment 1 with area A1 and segment 2 with area A2, and this entire bar is made of steel. So the modulus of elasticity is ES, and the coefficient of thermal expansion, is alpha S. The units are like this. Young's modulus of elasticity is 30 into 10 power 6 pound per inch square, and thermal expansion is 70 into 10 power minus 7 per degree centigrade. So for every 1 unit rise, there is a strain produced of 70 into 10 power minus 7. The area A1 is twice area 2, and both the segments are of equal length. So L1 is L2 here, and what is given is delta T is given, that is the rise in temperature is given as 100 Fahrenheit. So as I said before, when you are applying converting from Fahrenheit to Celsius, you have, because this alpha S is given in Celsius, so we have to convert this rise in temperature to Celsius. So for that, we begin the problem here like this, with solution like this. So first thing is F is Fahrenheit, C is Kelvin, and C is Celsius, and K is Kelvin. So the relation between Fahrenheit and centigrade is given here. F minus 32 by 9 is equal to C by 5. So at temperature when F Fahrenheit degree is 32, then C value will be 0. So 0 degree centigrade is equal to 32 Fahrenheit, and I think, yeah, that is fine. So, and here Kelvin is C plus 273.15. Now, if you increment, if you give a small increment delta F, what will be the increment in delta C? So what we do, we take a differential and we get delta F by 9 is equal to delta C by 5. And for Kelvin, a small increment in Kelvin will produce the same increment in centigrade. So for Kelvin, the alpha value will be same as what is the alpha value for when it is expressed in centigrade. But for Fahrenheit, if you see, delta F by 9 is delta C by 5. So for a temperature rise of 100 degree Fahrenheit, we get 100 by 9 is delta C by 5, and we can send that 5 there, and we get the change in Celsius as 55.55. So that is a change in temperature expressed in degrees Celsius. So we will be using this delta T in our calculations. So how do you start, how do you do this calculation? So first, if you look at this problem, it is fixed at both the ends. So what we'll do is we will free one end and allow the bar to expand due to this rise, allow to expand thermally. Then we'll apply a compressive force, and so that the compressive force will bring this expanded bar to its original length. So that is the concept we will apply here, just like what we did in the previous example. So what we do here, yeah, first thing is we'll allow the bar to expand. So we remove the support B, and the bar is allowed to expand. So here the segment L1, just 1 minute, I'm getting a call from some place. Sir, I'm in class now. After half an hour. Okay. Yeah. So the bar is allowed to this bar will expand. Segment 1 will expand by a certain amount, and segment 2 also will expand by certain amount. So that elongation is obtained from the temperature displacement relation. Okay. So the elongation in segment 1 is alpha delta T, which is the rise in temperature, times segment length, which is L1. So that is alpha delta T L1. And the elongation in this segment 2 will be alpha delta T L2. So the net elongation of the bar will be sum of those two elongations, so which is alpha delta T into L1 plus L2. So L1 plus L2 is L. Okay, so we'll denote the elongation of net elongation by delta B T. That means that is the displacement of point B in the rightward direction. So this displacement in the rightward direction is delta B T, and that is equal to alpha delta T L. And now what we'll do is we'll apply a compressive force here, so that this bar will contract and come back to its original place. So this point B prime will come back to its original position. So that compressive force, we are applying it here like this on the rightward side, on the rightward edge. So now we want to calculate what is the contraction due to in this problem. So this RB is acting into the left, so this RA will balance it out. So this, if you cut the cross section any place in segment 1, or in segment 2, the compressive force will be same, and it will be equal to RB. So here what we are doing is we are cutting the segment 1 here, and if you are looking at the free body diagram, so what we are having here, this RB is acting to the left and N1C. So here, instead of using N1, which is acting away from the member, I'm putting N1 acting towards the member. So this is a compressive force. So I'm denoting N1 with N1C just to indicate that it is a compressive force. So this N1C will be equal to RB here, and you can cut a segment you can cut a section in the segment 2. And you see here, this is the RB acting to the left, and N2C, which is again a compressive force. I'm putting the C subscript there, or superscript there. So N2C will be equal to RB. Now we can calculate the net contraction in this bar and net contraction in this bar by applying the force displacement relation. So what is the force displacement relation? It is PL by EA. Delta is equal to PL by EA. So in this case, the axial force N1 is constant throughout that segment and N2 is constant throughout the segment. So we can apply directly the force displacement relation without doing any integration and all. So the force displacement is N1 L1 by ESA1 and N2 L2 by ESA2. So here N1C and N2C both are equal to RB, and you can take Young's modulus C out, and you have L1 by A1 plus L2 by A2. So this is the contraction which is produced due to that compressive force. So this contraction should be such that it should balance out the expansion caused due to the temperature rise. So that expansion due to temperature rise is delta BT, and the contraction is called delta BR. So this is the compatibility condition. So we have expansion as alpha delta TL, and this contraction due to the compressive forces RB by ES, L1 by A1 plus L2 by A2. So from this we can get the compressive force RB as you send ES to the right hand side. So and L1 by A1 plus L2 by A2 to the denominator and on the left hand side. So we'll have ES by L1 by A1 plus L2 by A2 into alpha delta TL. So we can substitute our values here. ES is 30 into 10 power 6 pound per inch square. Alpha value is 70 into 10 power minus 7 per degree centigrade, and delta T is 55.55 degrees centigrade. And here L1 and L2 are equal to L, so we can cancel out the L terms, and we have A1 plus A2, and A1 A2 will go to the numerator. So we'll have A1 A2 by A1 plus A2. So we can simplify this force RB, compressive force RB again in the next part. So we can get this, we get this term 11665.55. This is again in pound per inch square, and A1 A2 by A1 plus A2. So the units are here inch square. So we'll get finally pounds. What is given is A1 A2 value is 2 times A1. So A1 A2 by A1 plus A2 is A1 into 2 times A1 by A1 plus 2A1. So we'll get 2 A1 by 3, or you can write it as 2 A1 is A2. So you can also write it as 2 A2 by 3. So we get the compressive force RB as 2 by 3 A1 into this value, and yeah, or you can write as A2 by 3 into this value. So what is the compressive stress in segment 1? So compressive stress in segment 1 is RB by area of cross section of segment 1, which is A1. So you can send this A1 to the denominator, and we get 2 by 3 times this term, and that value is around 7777 pound per inch square. And what is the compressive stress in the segment 2, which has a larger cross section area? So RB by A2. So A2 is twice the A1, and for that we'll get 388.5 pound per inch square. So the stress in the segment 2 is lesser because it has a larger area. Yeah, for this specific case. So yeah, this is the way we use the principle of superposition to find the stresses in this bar. So I will just take a small break, and I will come back to another composite cylinder problem. Actually, this problem we can treat this as a composite cylinder, or yeah, we can treat this as a composite cylinder, or we can treat it as two strips soldered between a copper strip. Okay, so two steel strip soldered between a copper strip soldered between two steel strips. So we can imagine this to be a rectangular steel strip, and this to be a rectangular steel strip, and copper strip is in between these two strips. So you can imagine this problem to be like this, or another way we can imagine this problem is there is a circular tube made of steel and a cylindrical copper tube inside that steel tube. So either way the analysis will be same for the either way the analysis is same. So yeah, you can, for this problem you can imagine, let's say it's a composite cylinder. Okay, so, or yeah, either way it should not matter. So the properties of the copper are given, Young's modulus, coefficient of thermal expansion, and the area of the copper section. And here the steel strip areas total area. So this total area is AS. So you can, if you imagine this to be a tube, then the total area is AS. Or if you imagine this to be two strips, then it will be AS by 2, AS by 2. And the modulus of elasticity is ES, and coefficient of thermal expansion is alpha S. So what is happening is these strips or the cylinder is allowed to is heated, and the temperature rises in the uniformly in this system. So what will happen? What will be the stresses produced, and what will be the elongation of this system? So these are the questions we want to answer. So the question is, what stresses will be produced in the steel and copper by the rise in temperature of the strips from when the temperature rises from T0 to T degree centigrade. So here we have the initial configuration. So this is a steel, copper, and steel. The initial length is L, and what we are doing is the temperature is increasing from T0 to T. So this is the final length of the bar. It will be L plus delta. So we have the expansion in steel, expansion in copper, and also expansion in steel and copper. So what are the unknowns here? Well, first unknown is what is the elongation delta. So that elongation is unknown. Second is what is the stress in the, or what is the axial force in the steel, PS, and what is the axial force in copper. So these are the three unknowns. So one thing, one more information is given, that coefficient of thermal expansion of copper is greater than coefficient of thermal expansion of steel. So what does this mean? What does how does this affect the problem? So if you look carefully, if coefficient of thermal expansion of copper is same as coefficient of thermal expansion of steel, what will happen is both the bars will elongate with the same amount. Okay. So this will be a very straightforward problem. The elongation will be simply alpha delta L. However, because coefficient of thermal expansion of copper is higher than steel, copper will try to expand more than steel. So although the copper wants to expand more, steel will prevent it from expanding because both are in contact. Steel will prevent it from expanding, and copper will not expand its maximum amount. There will be some reduced amount. It will expand to a smaller amount. So this copper is prevented from expanding. So this copper will be subjected to a compressive force. And steel will expand some amount, but copper wants to expand more. So as a result, the steel will have to go somewhere. Still, it will move to a rightward more, and it will be subjected to a tensile force. So this variation in the coefficient of thermal expansion produces internal stresses in the steel and copper. If both are equal, there is no internal stress, and the problem is very straightforward. So we will analyze now how to for this variation in thermal expansion, how to analyze the problem. We will look in the next slide. So what we have is, we will again use the principle of superposition to solve this problem. So if you look carefully here, we have the steel, we have the copper, and we have again the steel bar. So first thing is, let's assume that there is no interaction taking place between steel and copper, and here steel and copper, there is no interaction. That means they are independent of each other. There is no contact between those two, either cylinder and the tube, or between the strips. So when they are allowed to expand freely, what will happen is this steel bar will expand by an amount delta 1, and this copper will expand by an amount delta 2. So this is the free expansion which is happening in steel, delta 1, and there is a free expansion in copper which is happening, which is delta 2. So what is delta 1? Delta 1 is simply obtained from the temperature displacement relation. Delta 1 will be alpha steel times delta T times length. So alpha steel, delta T is T minus T naught times length. And what is delta 2, which is a free expansion in copper? It will be alpha copper times delta T, which is T minus T naught times length. So this is the free state. That means it is these bars, the steel bars are allowed to expand and copper bar are allowed to expand freely. However, in reality, there is a contact which is happening between steel and copper. As a result, the copper will not be able to expand this much. There will be some compressive force acting in the copper which will prevent it from expanding. That compressive force will come through this interaction. So this line indicates the final position of this entire system. So the final position, this is the original length, this is the original length, and the final length is L plus delta. So this line indicates the final position. This final position is such that it is to the left of the this line, and it is to the right of the steel line. Okay, so the steel will expand a little more because of copper, and the copper will shrink a little bit because of the steel, and both will occupy this intermediate position. Okay, so we look carefully what is happening here. So this is the free expansion length, and because the steel is producing some compressive force on this copper, it will shrink by delta 4, and the steel free expansion is this much, and because the copper is expanding a tensile force, so it will expand a little more by delta 3. Okay, so how is this accomplished? How to accomplish it by force? So we are saying that the steel will be subjected to this tensile internal stress, tensile force PS by 2, and this copper will be subjected to this compressive force PCU. Okay, so the total tensile force will be balanced by the total compressive force. So PS value will be equal to PCU. So what is happening is we can calculate the relation between delta 3 and the tensile force by the force displacement relation. So delta 3 will be PSL by ES-AS. So this tensile force is PS here, and the length is, we are again always referring to the original length, because all these deformations are very small compared to the original length. So we are always referring to the original length. So PSL by ES-AS. And what is delta 4? That is a compression in this bar due to this PCU will be PCU L by ECU ACU. Okay, so E times A for the copper. So this is the force displacement relationship. Now you can look carefully, and can you tell me what are the compatibility conditions? Just spend 1 minute and tell me what are the compatibility conditions. So I will, yeah, you can answer. One of you can answer if you want. Yeah.
Tensile strain will be equal to compressive strain.
Huh? Look at the figure. No? There is reason I'm giving it in colors. Delta 1 is the temperature displacement. Delta 2 is the temperature displacement. Here delta 3 is the force displacement. Delta 4 is the force displacement due to compression. Okay, so, and here this is delta is the total delta. So you can tell me what is the relation. You can
in steel bars, lambda 1 plus lambda delta 1 plus delta 3 is equal to delta 2 minus delta 4.
Okay, fine. Yeah. So delta 1 plus delta 3 is equal to delta 2 minus delta 4. So we are getting this length. When you say delta 1 plus delta 3, you are getting this delta value. And when you say delta 2 minus delta 4, again you are getting this delta value. Okay, so that is fine. So that is the compatibility condition. Okay, so yeah, I think I'll just explain. So that is a compatibility condition here. Delta 1 plus delta 3, which is equal to delta 2 minus delta 4, which is equal to delta. Okay, so this delta 1 plus delta 3, that is equal to delta, or delta 2 minus delta 4, that is equal to delta. So the problem, we have found all the relationships, and we can solve for the unknowns now. So the force displacement is there, temperature displacements, 2 equations are there, and compatibility conditions, there are 2 compatibility conditions and 1 equilibrium condition. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are 7 relations, and what are the unknowns? Unknowns are PS, PCU, delta, and here delta 1, delta 2, delta 3, delta 4. So 7 unknowns, 7 equations are there. So our system is okay, and we can solve for the unknowns here. So first thing is we'll start with the compatibility condition, and then from there we can find the use the force displacement relations, and then get the p value. Okay, so this is our compatibility condition. Delta 1 plus delta 3 is delta 2 minus delta 4. So from the delta 1 is the temperature displacement. So it is alpha s t minus t naught plus l, alpha s delta TL, and delta 3 is the expansion due to the force PS. It is due to the axial force PS. So PS, we have the force displacement relation PSL by ESAS, and here delta 2 is for the copper bar, and the delta 2 will be obtained from the temperature displacement relation alpha C delta TL, and this delta 4 is from the force displacement. Here there's a shrinking taking place in the copper bar, so we have this minus PCU L by EA for the copper. So we know PS is equal to PCU, and that we can this term we can move to the left hand side, and we have PS into L by EA for S, and L by EA for copper, and this LS T minus T naught we can move to the right hand side. We get alpha copper minus alpha steel into change in temperature times length. So this entire expression we can calculate, we can simplify this by cancelling out L term, and we have E copper, EA for copper plus EA plus steel on the numerator, and EA steel into EA copper on the denominator. So we can send that to the right hand side. So the stress in steel will be equal to the axial force in steel is equal to axial force in copper, which is alpha C minus alpha S into T minus T naught EA for steel into EA for copper by EA steel plus EA copper. So in this problem we have found the axial forces in the steel and the copper. So this PS in the steel, PS is a tensile force, and PCU is a compressive force. So there is a compressive stress acting in the copper, and there's a tensile stress acting in the steel. So how to calculate the compressive force or compressive stress or tensile stress? We divide by the area. So if you divide by area of steel here, or you can divide it by area of copper, you can get the corresponding stresses. So if you look at this this expression, as long as alpha Cu is different from alpha S, we're having this tensile force or compressive force. But once alpha Cu equals alpha S, then this term will go to 0, and the net tensile force or net compressive force will be 0. So if both the bars have same coefficient of thermal expansion, then they will not have any internal stresses. So I have notes up to this point, and although I can teach more, but I don't have the opportunity to do on Blackboard. So this brings the presentation to a conclusion, and I'll stop recording it.